Emily came back late. Not just late, too late. The kind of late that makes you question things. The kind of late that turns your stomach inside out, even before you know why. I was sitting on the couch when I heard her key in the lock. She struggled with it like her hands were unsteady. Drunk, maybe, or nervous. The door finally swung open, and there she was, standing in the dim light of the hallway, suitcase in one hand, phone in the other. She saw me and froze. Just for a second, but I caught it. A flicker of something in her eyes. Guilt? Surprise? Then, just as quickly, she smiled. Too wide. Too forced. "Hey, babe," she said, stepping inside, tossing the suitcase aside like it was nothing. "You're up late." I didn't answer. I was too busy smelling it. It hit me immediately. Not her usual scent. Not the faint vanilla and coconut lotion she always used. This was something else. Something deep, musky, unmistakably masculine. It wrapped around her like an invisible chain, choking me before I could even open my mouth. And she had no idea. She kicked off her shoes and stretched, acting like everything was normal. Like she hadn't been gone for 4 days. Like she hadn't just walked into our home still wearing another man's scent. I forced my voice to stay level. "How was Miami?" "Ugh," she groaned, rolling her eyes as she plopped onto the couch beside me. "So exhausting. We barely even slept. Just bar hopping, dancing. God, my feet are killing me." She swung her legs into my lap, expecting a foot rub like she always did after trips. But I didn't move. I didn't touch her. My hands were clenched into fists, nails digging into my palms. She smelled like him. I knew it. She knew it. And she was sitting here, lying to my face, like I was some clueless idiot. I swallowed the rage clawing up my throat and forced a smile. "Sounds fun," she exhaled, stretching her arms over her head. "Yeah, it was. But God, I miss my bed." She got up and disappeared into the bathroom. A moment later, I heard the shower turn on. I stayed on the couch, my mind racing. I should have let it go. Should have told myself I was overthinking. But something inside me snapped. I got up, walked over to her suitcase, unzipped it, and then I saw them. A pair of red lace panties. Emily doesn't wear red. Not for me, anyway. I stared at the red lace panties, my mind moving in slow motion. Everything around me, the hum of the shower, the faint sound of Emily humming, the distant noise of a car passing outside faded into nothing. All I could hear was my own heartbeat hammering in my ears. Emily doesn't wear red. Not in the entire 5 years I've known her. Not once. She always said she hated the way it looked on her, that it made her feel too flashy, too out of her comfort zone. She was all about neutrals, pastels, soft, subtle colors. But these were bold, daring, and worst of all, not her size. I felt my stomach twist, a sick realization sinking in. These didn't belong to her. They belonged to him. I reached deeper into the suitcase, my hands moving on their own. I found a small zippered pouch, her makeup bag. My fingers trembled as I unzipped it. Inside, buried beneath her usual lipstick and foundation, was a crumpled receipt. I pulled it out, smoothing it with my fingers. March 4th, the Fontainebleau Hotel. 1 king suite. I just stared at it. My eyes locked onto the words like they might rearrange themselves into something innocent if I looked long enough. But they didn't. Emily didn't stay with her friends. She wasn't in some cramped Airbnb with 6 other women, drinking margaritas and gossiping about their husbands. She was in a luxury hotel suite with a man. And she had the audacity to bring his scent home with her. A sharp knock from the bathroom made me flinch. "Hey, can you grab me a towel?" Her voice was light, casual, like nothing in the world was wrong. Like she hadn't just walked into our home with another man's cologne still clinging to her skin. I swallowed back the bile rising in my throat. My hands were shaking as I shoved everything back into her suitcase. My heart pounded so hard I thought she might hear it through the walls. I grabbed a towel and walked to the bathroom door. Took a breath. Forced myself to sound normal. "Here." The door cracked open just enough for her to reach out and grab it. Steam curled out into the hallway, carrying the faint scent of her body wash, something floral and sweet. Something meant to erase him. I turned and walked away before I did something I'd regret. I needed a plan. I wasn't just going to let this slide. She thought she could lie to my face, walk into our home still reeking of him, toss her suitcase in the hallway like she hadn't just spent the weekend screwing another man in a hotel suite? No. She had no idea what she just walked into. I was going to make damn sure she never forgot. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, every muscle in my body wound so tight I thought I might snap. Emily slept beside me, wrapped in the same sheets we'd shared for years, breathing evenly like she didn't have a single worry in the world. Like she hadn't just spent 4 days in a king-sized bed that wasn't ours. I could still smell him. Even after she showered, even after she changed into her usual oversized sleep shirt, there was something different. Something that wasn't mine. My mind wouldn't shut off. The receipt. The red lace. The way she froze when she saw me waiting for her last night. It all replayed in my head over and over, feeding my anger like gasoline on an open flame. At some point, I must have dozed off because the next thing I knew, sunlight was streaming through the blinds. Emily was already up, standing in front of the closet, humming to herself as she picked out clothes. She turned when she saw me moving. "Morning," she said, smiling like nothing was wrong. "You slept late." I sat up slowly. "Yeah, guess I was tired." My voice sounded normal, even though my chest was tight with rage. Emily pulled a dress off the hanger and held it against herself, checking the mirror. She was acting so normal. It was sickening. She turned back to me. "I was thinking we could do brunch today. Just us. I missed you." She missed me. I stared at her, wondering how she could stand there, say that to my face, after what she did, after him. And in that moment, I knew I couldn't just sit on this. I couldn't pretend. I needed to see her lie to my face. Needed to hear whatever excuse she would come up with when I pulled the rug out from under her. I swung my legs out of bed, stretching like nothing was wrong. "Brunch sounds good," she beamed, turning back to the mirror. "Perfect. I'll book a table." I watched her carefully, every movement, every breath. Then, casually, I said, "Oh, by the way, your suitcase was open last night. I closed it for you." Emily froze. Just for a split second. A hesitation so small most people wouldn't have noticed. But I did. She recovered quickly, turning back to me with an easy smile. "Oh, thanks." I was so exhausted, I just threw it down and went straight to bed. I stood up, stretching again, making it seem like the conversation was nothing. Then I tilted my head. "Weird, though." She frowned. "What's weird?" I walked toward her, slowly, watching her expression. "The red lace panties in your suitcase." The air in the room shifted. Emily's entire body tensed. Her hand gripped the dress she was holding just a little too tight. She blinked too fast, like her brain was scrambling. "What?" I kept my voice calm, controlled. "The red lace panties. The ones in your suitcase. They're not your size." I stopped right in front of her. "So, whose are they?" For the first time I saw it, the mask crack. Emily's eyes darted to the side. Then back to me. Oh my God. That's so weird." She let out a nervous laugh. "Too nervous. They must be Ashley's. We were sharing a suitcase at one point because hers broke. She probably just threw some of her stuff in mine." "Liar." Her voice was too high-pitched, her laugh too forced. She was talking too much, adding too many details, trying too hard to make it sound casual. I just stared at her, letting the silence stretch. Letting her squirm. She swallowed, shifting on her feet. "Babe, seriously. It's just Ashley's." I tilted my head. "You should call her then." Emily blanched. I saw the exact second the lie started to collapse in her mind. The hesitation, the moment of panic before she forced another fake laugh. "What? That's ridiculous." "I don't need to," I cut her off. "Call her." Emily opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked at me, really looked at me, and realized I wasn't buying a single word coming out of her mouth. Her fingers curled around the dress in her hands, gripping the fabric so tight it wrinkled. She wasn't humming anymore. She was cornered. And she knew it. Emily's face shifted so fast it was almost impressive. A second ago, she had been all nervous smiles and fake laughter, scrambling for excuses. Now her expression hardened, just for a moment, before she quickly masked it with something else. Annoyance. She sighed, rolling her eyes like I was the one being ridiculous, like I was making something out of nothing. "Oh my God, you're really doing this?" she muttered, crossing her arms. "You seriously want me to wake Ashley up over a pair of panties?" I didn't move, didn't blink. "Yes." Her jaw tightened. "Jesus, you always do this. You get all paranoid over the dumbest things." She shook her head, laughing under her breath, deflecting. "It's exhausting, you know that?" There it was, the shift from defense to attack. She wasn't even trying to prove her innocence anymore. She was trying to make me feel like the crazy one. Classic Emily. I kept my voice calm. "If it's so dumb, just call her." 5 seconds. and this whole conversation is over. She inhaled sharply, like she was so inconvenienced by me asking for basic proof that she wasn't a liar. Then she reached for her phone on the nightstand. I watched as she unlocked it, scrolled, and paused. It was tiny, but I caught it. A fraction of hesitation before she tapped on Ashley's contact. Then, she put the phone to her ear, lifting her chin like she had nothing to hide. I heard the dial tone. Once, twice, then voicemail. Emily immediately pulled the phone away. "Oh well," she said, too quickly, pressing the red button to hang up. "She's not picking up. Guess we'll have to drop it." She tossed her phone onto the bed like that was the end of it. I leaned against the dresser, crossing my arms. "Call again." She glared at me now, really glared. The fake patience was gone. "No," she snapped. "This is ridiculous." I nodded slowly, letting the silence sink in, letting her feel the weight of it. She was panicking, trying to find a way out of this conversation that didn't make her look guilty. But the problem was she was guilty. I could see it all over her. Finally, she let out a frustrated ugh, rubbing her temples like she was so over this. Then suddenly she laughed, but not the nervous laugh from earlier. This one was sharper, meaner. "You know what?" she said, tilting her head. "Fine. I'll tell you the truth." I stayed perfectly still. "Go ahead." She crossed her arms. "I bought them for you." I blinked. "What?" She shrugged like this was all just some dumb misunderstanding. "I saw them in a shop in Miami and I thought they were cute, so I bought them. For me. To wear for you." Surprise ruined, I guess. Oh, she was good. The way she said it, so confident, so casual, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Like she was offended that I would even question her. The old me, the one who trusted her blindly, might have believed it. Might have felt stupid for ever doubting her. But not now. I smiled. "That's sweet. Where's the receipt?" Emily froze. Another tiny mistake. Another tiny hesitation. But it was there. She recovered quickly, rolling her eyes. "Oh my God, I don't know. Probably in the trash or at the bottom of my bag somewhere." She waved a hand, dismissing it. Who even keeps receipts for underwear? I pulled something out of my pocket. Unfolded it. Emily's face drained of color. I held up the real receipt, the one from the Fontainebleau Hotel. The one with the King's Suite listed in bold letters. The one she thought I hadn't seen. I didn't say anything. I just watched her. Watched her eyes dart from the paper to me, her brain working overtime to come up with something, anything that would get her out of this. Then finally she did the one thing I never expected. She laughed. Not nervous. Not guilty. A slow, amused laugh. And when she looked up at me, there was no regret in her eyes. No panic. No fear. Just pure arrogance. "You went through my stuff," she said, raising an eyebrow. "Wow. That's pathetic." She wasn't even trying to deny it anymore. I stared at her, waiting for the excuses, the tears, the desperate attempt to gaslight me into thinking I was wrong. But none of that came. Instead, Emily smirked. She tilted her head, eyes narrowing just slightly, like she was challenging me now. "You really went through my stuff? That's kind of psycho, don't you think?" I couldn't believe it. She was caught, and instead of even attempting to lie her way out, she was flipping it back on me. I clenched my jaw. "That's all you have to say?" She shrugged, crossing her arms. "I don't owe you an explanation." I laughed. A sharp, humorless sound. "You don't owe me an explanation?" I repeated, shaking my head. "You're my wife, Emily." That seemed to set her off. Her smirk vanished, her lips pressing into a thin line. Then she scoffed. "Yeah? And what kind of husband goes through his wife's suitcase like some jealous freak? Maybe the kind whose wife comes home smelling like another man." I shot back, stepping closer. "The kind whose wife brings his panties back in her bag and then tries to play it off like nothing happened." Emily rolled her eyes. "Oh my God. You're so dramatic. It's not that deep. Not that deep." The rage inside me twisted into something sharper. "You're unbelievable." She exhaled through her nose like I was boring her now. Like this whole conversation was an inconvenience to her. Then she picked up her phone from the bed and started scrolling. I took a step forward, lowering my voice. "Tell me the truth, Emily." She kept her eyes on her screen, thumb moving over the glass like she wasn't even listening. "I don't owe you." I grabbed the phone out of her hand and tossed it onto the dresser. "Tell me the truth." Her head snapped up, eyes blazing. "Give me my phone." I didn't move. She stepped closer. "Give me my phone." For a moment, we just stared at each other. The tension in the room was so thick it felt suffocating. Emily's chest was rising and falling quickly now, her fingers twitching at her sides. Then she said it. So what if I did? Silence. A ringing, deafening silence. My blood turned to ice. I had pushed her, demanded an answer, but I wasn't ready for this. For the way she just dropped it like that, like it meant nothing. I swallowed hard. What? She rolled her shoulders back, arms still crossed, face still annoyed. Like I was making a big deal over forgetting to take out the trash. Not like she was admitting to cheating on me. So what if I did? She repeated, slow and deliberate. What are you gonna do about it? I let out a breath. A shaky, disbelieving breath. Are you serious right now? She smirked again. Dead serious. And then she laughed. I felt something inside me snap. Not in a violent way. Not in a way that made me want to yell or break things. No. It snapped in a way that felt final. Like something inside me had finally died. Because I realized in that moment that she wasn't sorry. She wasn't ashamed. She wasn't guilty. She was proud. She had walked into our home, into my home, after spending 4 days in another man's bed, still smelling like him, and she thought she could laugh about it. I stepped back. Shook my head. Wow. Emily sighed like she was so over it. Can we just drop this? Seriously, you're being exhausting. That's when I knew I was done. She could lie. She could mock me. She could roll her eyes and act like she had all the power. But she was wrong. She had no idea what was coming next. Something in me went cold. It wasn't anger anymore. It wasn't heartbreak. It was something sharper, clearer. Like my brain had finally wiped away the fog and shown me exactly what I was dealing with. Emily stood there, still smirking, still acting like she held all the cards, like she had already won. She thought I was weak. She thought I would yell, get emotional, beg her for the truth. But she didn't realize. She had just handed me exactly what I needed. I took a slow breath, let my shoulders relax, and smiled. Emily's smirk faltered, just for a second. But I saw it. You know what? I said, my voice calm, almost casual. You're right. Her brows pulled together slightly. What? I shrugged. You're right. This whole thing is exhausting. I don't know why I even bothered. I turned and walked toward the closet, opened it, and grabbed a clean shirt. Acted like nothing was wrong. Like I had just accepted it. Emily watched me carefully. I could feel her eyes on my back. Could practically hear her trying to figure out what was happening. She was expecting rage. Screaming. A fight. She wasn't expecting this. I pulled the shirt over my head, smoothed it out, then glanced at her. You wanted brunch, right? Emily blinked. Wait, what? I grabbed my watch from the nightstand, strapped it onto my wrist. Brunch. You said you wanted to go. Let's do it. She stared at me like I had just started speaking a foreign language. She laughed, shaking her head. You're messing with me. I smiled again. Nope. Emily narrowed her eyes. So you're just dropping it? I nodded. Yep. She hesitated like she didn't trust it. Which was smart because she shouldn't. But Emily was cocky. Too cocky. She thought she had broken me. That I had just given up. So after a moment she relaxed. Rolled her eyes like I was the emotional one, like she was the one being forced to deal with a childish tantrum. God, she muttered, brushing past me toward the bathroom. Finally. Took you long enough? She disappeared behind the door and I heard the water turn on. I stood there, staring at the closed door. Then, slowly, I walked over to her closet. The one where I knew she kept her handbags, her shoeboxes, her laptop. The one where she had no idea what was waiting for her. Because while she was out there, thinking she was outsmarting me, I had been preparing. I reached into the closet and pulled out the one thing that was going to change everything. And when she opened that door again, when she walked out, completely unaware of what was coming, she was about to lose everything that I stood there, staring at her closet, feeling the weight of what I was about to do settle over me. But it wasn't fear. It wasn't hesitation. It was satisfaction. Emily had no idea. She thought she had walked away winning. Thought she had reduced me to some weak, clueless husband who would just accept what she did and move on. But she was about to learn. I reached up to the top shelf, feeling around until my fingers brushed against what I was looking for, her old shoebox. The one she thought was hidden. I pulled it down, popped the lid, and there it was. Her laptop. The one she never used in front of me. The one she always locked. She was cocky but not careful. Because Emily? She always used the same damn passwords. I opened it, typed in the one she used for everything, and just like that, I was in. And what I found? Pure gold. Emails. Messages. A hotel confirmation from months ago, not just from Miami. She had been doing this for a long time. And then, the jackpot. A folder named Work Stuff, which when I clicked it wasn't full of work at all. Photos, screenshots, videos, and in one of them, him. I stared at his face. Some guy I had never seen before, looking way too comfortable with my wife. He wasn't some random fling from Miami, he was a regular. I inhaled deeply, my chest rising as I fought to keep my breathing steady. This wasn't just a mistake. This was a lifestyle. Emily had built an entire double life behind my back, and she was so sure she would never get caught. The shower turned off. I heard the water stop, the rustle of a towel, the sound of the door unlocking. I closed the laptop, put the shoebox back exactly where it was, and then I sat on the edge of the bed waiting. A moment later, the bathroom door opened, and Emily stepped out, wrapped in a towel, steam curling around her. She looked at me, then frowned. "What?" she said. I smiled, genuinely smiled. "You left your closet open." Emily's eyes flicked toward it. And then she froze. For the first time, real fear flashed across her face. She knew, and I watched, enjoying every second. As she realized her entire game had just come to an end, Emily's reaction was instant. A flicker of panic flashed across her face, her body going rigid as her eyes darted toward the closet, toward the shoebox she thought I didn't know about. I watched her, enjoyed the way her entire demeanor changed. For the first time, she wasn't in control. For the first time, she was afraid. She tried to cover it up quickly, forced her face into a mask of annoyance like I was just being difficult again. "Jesus, are we still doing this?" she muttered, stepping toward her dresser like she wasn't panicking inside. She grabbed lotion, rubbing it over her arms with deliberate movements. "I thought we were going to brunch." I leaned back against the bed, stretching my arms. Relaxed. Calm. Because she wasn't in charge anymore. I was. "Oh, we are," I said lightly. "But first, I think we should have a little chat." Emily didn't turn around, but I saw the way her shoulders stiffened for a fraction of a second before she forced them to relax. She let out a fake laugh. "Oh my God, enough, okay?" She turned, arms crossed. "You need to let this go. I don't know what's going on with you lately, but this whole paranoid, insecure thing? It's really unattractive." I laughed. A deep, genuine laugh, because she really, truly thought that would work. That I was the insecure one. That's when I knew. She had no idea what was coming. I stood up slowly, watching her carefully. "It's funny," I said, tilting my head. "You call me paranoid, but I'm looking at proof." Her face froze. For half a second. So fast most people wouldn't have caught it. Her entire expression dropped. The mask slipped. The panic flashed in her eyes again. Then, just as quickly, she rolled her eyes, letting out another exaggerated sigh. "Oh my God, you seriously went through my stuff?" She shook her head, grabbing a hairbrush from the dresser like she didn't have a care in the world. "You're such a child." I just smiled, because she was fumbling now. The usual confidence wasn't there. The arrogance. She was stalling. She started brushing her hair aggressively, not looking at me. "If you went through my laptop, then congratulations. You found a bunch of my private stuff. That doesn't make me the bad guy. It makes you the creep." I took a step forward. "You're right," I said, my voice light, easy. "It's your private stuff." I leaned in slightly, just enough to watch her grip tighten around the hairbrush. "So I'm sure you won't mind if I forward a few of those videos to myself, right?" Her entire body locked up. And just like that, I had her. The brush fell onto the dresser with a thud. Emily's jaw clenched so hard I could see it twitch. She slowly turned to look at me, her face now carefully blank. Controlled. Calculating. She knew she had no way out of this. I could see the gears turning in her head, trying to figure out how to twist this back in her favor. And then, just like I expected, she changed tactics. Her expression softened. Her shoulders dropped. And then tears. Fake, manipulative tears welling up in her eyes as she whispered, "Babe, please." I laughed again, because I knew this Emily. This was the Emily who got out of parking tickets. The Emily who convinced customer service reps to give her refunds. The Emily who made everything someone else's fault. But she wasn't dealing with them. She was dealing with me. I took another step forward, lowering my voice. "Who is he, Emily?" She blinked rapidly, trying to make herself look hurt. I cut her off. "Don't lie." The fake tears stopped instantly. Her face hardened. And finally, she dropped the act. "You wouldn't even know his name," she said coldly. And there it was. The real Emily. I nodded slowly, letting her words settle between us. Okay, I said. That's all I needed to hear. Then I grabbed my phone from the nightstand, opened my email, and hit send. Emily's phone pinged. She frowned, reaching for it. Then her entire face drained of color. Because she wasn't looking at a message from me. She was looking at an email forwarded from her own account. With all the proof. And the recipient? Her boss. Her parents. And the man she thought I didn't know about. Emily's eyes snapped to mine, wild with panic now. What the hell did you do? I smiled. Check your closet, sweetheart. And when she saw what I had done, she screamed. Emily lunged for her phone, her fingers shaking as she frantically scrolled through her messages, her emails, her life crumbling in real time. I watched her, arms crossed, completely calm, while she unraveled in front of me. Her breathing was ragged now. Panicked. The arrogant, smug woman who had stood in front of me not 10 minutes ago, mocking me, challenging me, was gone. In her place was someone who had just lost everything and knew it. Her head snapped up, her face pale. You're lying. I smiled. Am I? Her fingers flew across her screen, desperate, probably trying to recall the email, delete it, block it, but it was too late. The email had already been sent. And she knew it. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She just stood there, chest rising and falling too fast, eyes darting between me and her phone, looking for some way to undo what had just happened. I leaned against the dresser, relaxed. Let's see, I said casually. Who got the message first? Emily's phone pinged again. She flinched like she had been slapped. And then, like clockwork, my own phone buzzed. I pulled it out and checked the screen. Her boss. Ah, I said, nodding. Looks like Daniel got it first. I looked at her, pretending to think. You know, your direct supervisor? The one who's always posting about company integrity and workplace values. I grinned. Bet he'll love knowing one of his senior managers has been using company trips to shack up with some random guy. Emily made a strangled sound in the back of her throat. You're insane, she choked out. No, I said, still completely calm. I just finally stopped letting you treat me like an idiot. She moved then, rushing toward me, phone clutched in her hand like she was about to throw it. Fix it, she shrieked. Undo it. I stepped to the side effortlessly, and she missed, stumbling past me, her towel slipping slightly from her shoulder. Undo it, I repeated, tilting my head. You mean take back the truth? Can't do that, sweetheart. Her hands clenched into fists, her entire body trembling. You don't understand what you just did, she screamed. I smiled. Oh, I understand perfectly. Because now? She wasn't just a cheating wife. She was a woman who had just tanked her entire life in under 30 seconds. Her boss knew. Her family knew. And most importantly, the guy she had been sleeping with? He knew too. Emily was shaking now, seething, her jaw so tight I thought it might snap. You think you've won? She spat. I didn't think. I knew. Check your closet, I said again, gesturing behind her. Emily's eyes flicked toward it fast, like she couldn't stop herself. Like the fear of what else I had done was too overwhelming to ignore. Slowly, she turned, walked toward it, and then she saw it. Her suitcase. Wide open. And inside? Every single piece of her stuff already packed. Clothes, shoes, makeup bag, toiletries. The entire contents of her closet neatly folded and waiting for her to leave. Emily sucked in a sharp breath. What a get out, I said. She turned back to me, wild-eyed. You can't be serious. I smiled. Dead serious. Her face twisted in rage. This is my house too. Not anymore, I said easily. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the papers. The divorce papers I had already prepared the second I found out the truth. Her eyes locked onto them. She stopped breathing. Her lips parted slightly, her body frozen, her brain finally catching up to the fact that this wasn't just some fight she could win. This was done. I tossed the papers onto the bed like they meant nothing. Sign them, I said. Or don't. Doesn't matter. My lawyer already has everything in motion. Emily's throat bobbed. Her hands twitched like she wanted to rip them up. Like she wanted to scream. And then her phone rang. She flinched, looked at it, and when she saw the name on the screen, her face turned to pure horror. Because it wasn't me calling. It wasn't her boss. It wasn't even her parents. It was him. Her little side piece. Calling her. Right now. I grinned. Guess he got the email too. And then she snapped. Emily's breath hitched. Her fingers twitched at her sides, hesitating for a split second before she grabbed the phone like it was a live grenade. She turned away from me, stepping toward the window as she swiped to answer. Hello? Her voice shaky, uncertain. Not at all like the confident, smug woman who had walked into our home less than 12 hours ago, still smelling like him. I watched her from the bed, arms crossed, taking in every little reaction. The way her shoulders tensed as she listened. The way her free hand clawed at the towel still wrapped around her body like she was trying to hold herself together. And then her posture collapsed. Her knees buckled and she had to grab onto the nightstand to keep herself standing. Because whatever he had just said, it wasn't good. I smirked. Perfect. I had counted on this. Because men like him, the ones who chase after married women, thinking they're getting something exciting, something forbidden, they don't like messy. They like fantasy. The thrill of sneaking around, the stolen moments in luxury hotel rooms, the excitement of getting away with it. But the second that fantasy explodes into reality, they run. Emily knew it too. That's why her voice suddenly turned pleading. Wait, babe, just listen to me, babe. I laughed. Loud enough for her to hear. Emily whipped around, eyes blazing. I could see it now, the mix of rage and panic as she realized she wasn't just losing one man today. She was losing both. She turned back toward the window, gripping the phone tighter. No, it's not like that, I didn't, he's lying. Oh, this was Rich? She was trying to blame me. Like I had somehow fabricated the emails from her own account. Like I had faked the hotel receipts and the screenshots of their messages. She really thought she could lie her way out of this. I sighed dramatically, pushing off the bed. You should put him on speaker. Emily spun toward me, her face twisted in fury. Shut up. I grinned. What? Don't want him to hear the truth? Emily's fingers were white-knuckled around the phone now. I swear to God, but then he hung up. I saw it happen in real time. The call cut out. The screen went black. Emily just stood there, frozen, staring at the phone like she could somehow will him to call back. But he wouldn't. Because men like him? They don't stay. They leave. She blinked once. Twice. And then her hand snapped up and she hurled the phone at the wall. It shattered on impact. A piece of the screen skidded across the floor, landing near my feet. I looked down at it, then back at her. Emily was breathing hard now, her chest rising and falling, her hands clenched into fists. And for the first time she looked lost. She had always been in control. Always had the upper hand. She had built an entire life on lies, manipulation, and cheating her way through problems. But now? Now she had nothing. No lover. No excuses. And no power. I picked up her suitcase and rolled it toward the door. She didn't move. Didn't speak. Just stood there, towel still wrapped around her, staring at me with pure hatred. I opened the door. Time's up, Emily. She let out a breath, ragged, shaky, furious. And then, in a low, venomous voice, she spat, You'll regret this. I smiled. No, I really won't. And then Emily did something I'll never forget. She straightened. Smoothed out the towel. And then she laughed. Not like before, not her usual mocking laugh. This one was cold. Calculated. And when she looked at me again, there was no more panic. No more desperation. Just something dangerous. You think this is over? She whispered. I met her gaze, completely calm. Yeah. I said. I do. Because I had already won. Emily picked up her suitcase, walking past me without another word. And as she stepped outside, the morning sunlight spilling over her bare shoulders, I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel angry. I felt free. And when the door slammed shut behind her, I knew I would never see her again.